and welcome to Women's Health Unwrapped with me, Nicola Fondell. This is your weekly show dedicated to empowering high-performing women like you to unlock the secrets of true health and vitality. Now, sometimes we have guest experts and real-life stories. I guess today is a bit of a real-life story, but it's just me on my own. And I'm here sharing something with you that I know is going to help you get clear on the power of building your own healthy habits without the overwhelm and confusion you may feel right now, because this space is noisy. There are so many people telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So this podcast is all about stripping back and laying out the truth about why taking better care of yourself, especially in midlife, is the answer to creating a long, strong, full and healthy life. Okay, so why am I here alone today? I have something really important that I want to share with you. I recently went to see Mel Robbins live in London on her world tour. I think London was the only city outside of the US that she was performing in, and it was a fantastic day, and it reignited something really powerful in me. I wanted to share this with you because this has been just such a huge part of my personal story and the changes that I've made in my health, but also in my life. And so this one piece of information that I learned from Mel Robbins that I want every woman to know is what this episode is all about. Back in 2021, something first sparked in me when my 20-year career at Nike came to a very quick and unexpected end. I was made redundant in the midst of the pandemic. I was anxious, I was lacking self-belief, I was unsure about what to do, and honestly, a bit lost. But that's when I first heard Mel say, "You are one decision away from a different life." And it stuck with me. So today I want to take you behind the scenes of my own transformation, what was going on in my life at that time, and how those words from Mel became a guide and what I believe every woman needs to hear about decision making, change, and most importantly, trusting herself again. And we did do a whole episode on this just a few weeks before, and this definitely links into that because, of course, it's all connected. So let's go back to 2020. I was still at Nike in a fast-paced, high-pressure leadership level role. I was commuting regularly, lots of travel to London on the train from Newcastle. For those that don't know, it's about, 2.75 hour-ish journey just on the train, and then the tube to the office, and then the walk. And I was doing that most weeks, sometimes staying away from home 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 nights. And I felt like I was constantly performing. It was just go, 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 and as I now know, survive. Then the pandemic hit. Suddenly, all the travel stopped. The meetings moved online. No more commuting to the office, working from home in this same room, office space where I work today. And I had, like many of us, this rare moment of stillness. And in that stillness, I had a massive wake-up call. I realised something that hit me hard. Now, I kind of knew all of this, but that space and slowdown in the real world, because my job didn't slow down at all, this is what led me to really have this massive wake-up call. I was working just as hard at home, really long hours, actually sometimes longer than the days I put in pre the pandemic, but without all of that travel. And this gave me that space to realise that I'd been performing on autopilot for years. Not pausing, not asking what I really wanted, not allowing myself to dream of anything different. I was anxious, exhausted, and operating in survival mode. But the strange thing was that even though the job itself was much busier because of all the things we had to try to rectify and solve, with factories shut down all over the world and product not coming in to our retailers and retailers being closed in the brick and mortar sense on high streets and in cities, etc. But what working from home actually brought to me was relief. I felt safer. I didn't have to put on the mask of being like on all the time. I realised that the way I was going to work every day in person and being with people in real life was adding to the anxiety and stress that I felt. I was just not fitting with this career, this culture, this corporate environment that I'd been part of for, at that point, almost 19 years. Then, not long after having this realisation, a year or so into the pandemic, the redundancy came about. After 2 decades of building my career, it felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. I was the main earner in my family at the time. I couldn't be without a job and an income. But something had shifted within me, and maybe you've heard me talk about this elsewhere previously. I talk about, at this point, there already been these little embers, these little sparks inside of me. I'd had a few life changes happen, losing my mum, having quite a severe fall and surgery on my wrist, a few other things going on in my personal and family life, as well as, of course, the pandemic. So although initially I felt really scared and kind of panicked about what to do and how I was going to look for another job, it also gave me time and space for the first time in my adult life. I had this luxury moment almost of being paid out to leave the job and having time to ask, what do I want? And that question changed everything, because I decided to not initially look for employment in a job. And that took me, of course, to where I am today. So somewhere in those early days of rebuilding, working out what I was going to do, starting to do my personal training qualification, and then not long after that realising perhaps I could build some kind of coaching business, I stumbled upon Mel Robbins on YouTube, and I'd love to remember exactly how I came across her. I really feel like it was something that was shared on a Facebook group that I was part of, and that took me to watching Mel on YouTube. And honestly, let me tell you, it was just such a kind of moment of realization, because Mel was, to me, speaking my language. Her energy, her honesty, and that unfiltered truth. If you know Mel, you know how she speaks. It really resonated with me. It landed like a ton of bricks. And what I heard was, no one is coming. The only person you're waiting on is you. And that's when I made that, big decision to think, right, okay, I can do this. I can have a business. I can take back control of my health. And at that point, a big piece of that was the mental health that I was still struggling with, the low self-worth, the low self-esteem and confidence. And I didn't feel ready. I had this dream, and this dream was quickly igniting a passion inside of me. But I was absolutely, to put it mildly, crapping myself. The first time I tried to go live on Facebook, I was a nervous wreck. So scared. Up to that point, I had really not been able to present in my job at Nike. I struggled even in meetings to speak up. I had so many panic attacks and, real episodes of overwhelm and big episodes of burnout as well. So at this point, although I started to feel like maybe I could achieve this dream, I had all of this crippling self-doubt within me. So Mel's voice began popping up. Of course, the algorithm knew that I wanted more. And, she gave me lots that I want to share with you today, because although I didn't feel 100% ready, far from it, I did it anyway. And one funny example to share with this is about my first date with my now husband, Kev. It was the first date I'd been on with anyone after ending my marriage. And I was so nervous. I mean, ridiculously nervous. I just had all of this self-talk going on about, why am I doing this? You can't do this. You're so anxious. You're going to stop breathing. This is crazy. Who even are you? Etc. etc. And because I'd become a fan of Mel's, I had to pull over the car, stop, find an episode on YouTube and listen to Mel. And I listened to her explaining how anxiety and excitement are the same thing in the body. You know, it's the way that you interpret that in your brain, those sensations that you're feeling, the rapid breathing, the maybe sweaty palms, the perhaps even palpitations, the nervous stomach, the jitters, so to speak, you know, reframing those sensations, those feelings to shift them to excitement rather than anxiety. And I listened to her and thought, okay, I choose to believe. I'm excited. This is what I want to do. I've chatted to him, you know, bit over the past few days, and this is the right thing. I've made this decision. So I reframed those physical feelings and the initial way my brain reacted, which was to go to catastrophizing and worst case scenario and anxiety. And I moved through that and chose to believe I was excited. And look how that turned out. First date, that was it. I'm now married. And also, on a more serious note, a lot of what I was taking from Mel helped me to make the decision to end my marriage, because it wasn't a healthy relationship. I hadn't been happy in that relationship for quite some time, without sharing everything and so on. It was a very volatile relationship, but because of how I was in my self-belief, self-love, even, you know, the stress that I was experiencing and belief that I had something wrong with me, I really fought hard to make the best of that relationship and marriage for many years even, and told myself, this is just how it is, this is how it has to be. But what I'd started to take from Mel on that one decision away from a different life, and that you get to choose, really did support me in working out what was the right thing to do next in that relationship at that point in time, and that was to end it. And likewise, choosing to go on that date with Kev. Now, I've taken lots from Mel into my life, because a lot of what she teaches, you know, I've just totally resonated with, and I've woven that into my life in every way, including my professional life and running the Life Now coaching business, and of course the Women's Health and Rap podcast. So what I thought I'd do is share a few truths that I carry with me every day, things that have become kind of like Mel's rules, if you like, or Mel's guidance. I don't necessarily like that term, rules. So here we go. The first thing is, you're not waiting on motivation, you're waiting on yourself. Now, if you're a Mel fan, you'll have heard her say motivation is garbage, and she certainly talked about this in quite some detail on the stage in London a few weeks ago. She talks about, you know, how so many of us are waiting for motivation to do the thing we want to do. And because we don't feel motivated, we don't do it. And of course, in the work that I do in health and wellness and helping people to improve their overall health through their habits, a lot of people have been trying to make those changes for many years and failed. And they often put it down to lack of motivation or lack of willpower. But motivation doesn't come first, action does. You act your way into motivation. You know, action creates momentum, and that helps create motivation. And again, that very much links into the big thing I want you to know about one decision away from changing your life, and that you have what it takes. Because waiting on motivation is like outsourcing your trust into something else. And I'm very much of the belief that it's when we trust ourselves that we can make the changes that we want. The second thing, also loving this because it's in line with everything that I'm about, reps build self-worth. It's like going to the gym. You're not going to get toned biceps or a toned booty unless you do the reps. Well, guess what? You need to do this for yourself too. Every time you show up for yourself, you're proving to your brain that you matter. And self-worth is at the core of everything that I do. It's why I want women to be empowered about their health, because I know when you start taking care of yourself, you build your self-worth. And so many of us women are lacking self-worth. Self-worth is knowing at our core that we are enough, we are wholesome, we are worthy, we are valuable humans in every sense. You know, it doesn't falter if we make a mistake as a parent or as an employee in a presentation or something. It is unshakable because we are worthy at our very core. So doing the stuff, showing up for yourself, it's not about perfection, it's about just, you know, being consistent, supporting yourself, giving yourself the evidence that you can do this. Reps build self-worth. The third one is pressure doesn't create change. It creates resistance. That includes self-pressure, because when you are pressuring yourself, I must eat healthier, I have to go to the gym, I must get out for a run, I really should stop using the phone, that doesn't create change. And I'm sure you know that. As you hear me say that, you will be able to think of something very recently where you've been putting that pressure on yourself to do the thing or stop doing something, but it doesn't work. Because real change comes when we meet ourselves with compassion. And I often talk about compassion being the missing piece of the wellness puzzle. I've written a blog on this quite some time ago. Maybe I should do a podcast episode actually on that, because compassion is so important, to be kind to ourselves, to support ourselves, and especially as we transition through the season of perimenopause and then menopause and all of the changes and shifts that that season brings with it. We need to support ourselves with compassion and be kind, and that allows us to then move forward with consistency. So less pressure on yourself, because that actually is having the opposite effect of what you're intending. The next one is to celebrate now. Stop waiting until you've hit the big milestone to feel proud of yourself. Stop also waiting for that big thing to be happy, to feel happiness. You know, you've done it. If you've had one healthy lunch this week, celebrate that. You're on your way to 5 healthy lunches in a week or 7 healthy lunches in a week. Know that, you know, you alone are worth celebrating. Anything that you do, and as humans, and especially I believe as women, we're not naturally very good at, you know, acknowledging our wins and celebrating who we are and progress that we've made and things that we've done. So that is a huge part of how I work with clients in my coaching, building habits to reflect, to recognize and reward ourselves. So celebrating now, not waiting for that big thing. Because again, when we celebrate and acknowledge what we're doing and what we've achieved, that is going to build more motivation and more momentum. That's how it's all coming together. And then the next one is your brain listens to what you tell it. And boy, did I need this. I actually started my personal progression journey with 2 amazing coaches, Cheryl and Donna, who support women to become the real versions of themselves. They are imposter syndrome experts. And when I then found Mel, it was just kind of like Donna and Cheryl on steroids, so to speak, because what Mel explains is the science behind, you know, this. What we tell our brain is what becomes our reality. Our mind filters what it thinks is important to you. So if you're telling yourself you're not good enough and that you can't do that and that you're fat and you'll never lose weight and that you're never going to meet a man or you're never going to change your job or you'll never leave your husband because this is just the crappy relationship, you know, you deserve, and this is how it is, and it's too hard to start again in your 40s or your 50s, then guess what? Your brain believes that that is what you want more of, and so it keeps feeding it and filters everything else out. and that becomes your reality. And this has been a huge, huge, huge part of my shift and transformation. I've actually ran workshops just on habit change and talking about this filter, this reticular activating system, the RAS in our brain, and how it acts as this filter, this net, and traps what it thinks is important because of what we think. So whatever you're saying up here in your head internally is so bloody powerful. So shift that inner narrative, work on that inner critic, build your self-confidence, all of those things that I've just shared about recognizing what you're changing, achieving, celebrating it, that's going to help too. So get really clear about what you want and vision it, believe that you are capable of making it happen, because then your brain will get you there. And I do lots of this work with clients. We interrupt the loop, those loops of self-doubt, spiraling into fear, the imposter syndrome telling you that you're going to be found out, you'll be discovered, you aren't good enough, everybody knows who you really are, the truth of what you're really capable of. You can interrupt them, and then you can reframe them. And here's what I've learned the hard way, that change isn't about pressure or perfection. It's about discipline, yes, because we need to be consistent. We have to start, we have to keep doing it, but more loving and supportive and intentional. And that's a key part of how I am now, being very intentional about how I want to feel, what I want to do, and what I'm going to do to achieve that. So it's about putting in the reps over and over. We need to be consistent, but we need to be less pressured, and certainly in my case, less of a perfectionist. And that's been a great shift for me and lesson to learn, to be less of a perfectionist and not aim for the top of the mountain right away. And you'll have heard me, if you're a regular listener, talk about that analogy many times, because it's also about accepting, who you are, and that you are enough, and that you have what you need within you to achieve what you want. You just need a plan, a strategy, the mechanisms to be able to put that change into play. And also a key part is that it's about accepting that not everyone around you is going to change when you do, and that's okay. Mel's new book this year, The Let Them Theory, let them be on their own path, let them have their own beliefs, let them fail, let them figure it out, let them do it their way, and let them not support you, because let me know that this is what I want and that this is the best thing for me. And it's also about acknowledging that you can't change other people, because a big part of what happens when you improve how you feel and live and your life gets better, you want everybody else to have the same shifts and changes in their mind and in their happiness. But we can't do that either. And Mel obviously explores this in her book, which I highly recommend, The Let Them Theory. Your job is just to honour your path, inspire yourself and control what is in your controllable. Don't try to control others. So I really hope that this has resonated with you, and I just want to leave you with some questions for reflection. What's one decision you can make today? Because I'm empowering you to know what I learned, and that you are only one decision away from changing your life, and that you get to control that. So what's that one small but powerful decision to shift your life in the direction of who you want to become? Maybe it's something you've been putting off for quite some time, telling yourself because you don't believe you're good enough that you can't do it. What is that one small decision that you can make to begin with to start to shift your life towards that new direction? Maybe it's to speak up in a relationship, at work. Maybe it's to rest. Maybe it's to put more boundaries in with your family, or even with your work colleagues or your boss. Maybe it's to say yes to yourself for the first time in years. Maybe it's to say, okay, I'm midlife, things are changing, I can't keep juggling all of the balls. It's no good telling myself that this is just the way it has to be. it's time to change. And that's the first decision. So whatever it is, trust that you already have what you need inside of you. You are one decision away from a different life, and you deserve to live it. So thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this, of course, I've got lots more podcasts, but so has Mel Robbins. She has 2 new episodes every week. And honestly, there's so much to choose from. She's brilliant. And if you want any advice on where to start, if you're new to Mel, let me know, because I would love for others to learn and take from her what I've took from her, and I know how impactful it can be in that journey to creating the life you deserve to live. So if this episode resonated with you, please, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Drop me a review, a comment. I'd love to grow the podcast more, and subscribers and reviews, ratings really do help the podcast to get into the ears and in the eyes of so many more women. So please take a moment to just do that. And of course, share it with a friend, share it with another woman who you want to be empowered to live a fantastic life. And finally, of course, that one decision you've made already and that you're going to put into action, share it with me. Tag me on Instagram, DM me, whatever way works for you. I'd love to know and guide you as well, if I can, in that change and shift you're going to make in your life, because you've got this. And if you're watching, I have Mel's amazing book here that I got notebook at the live event. And as Mel always says at the end of her podcast episodes, in case nobody tells you today, I love you. And I love the way that she does that as well. Yeah, maybe it's a bit cheesy, but I like that. So thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Take care.